Forgiveness is a jagged thing. It cuts at the edges of the heart, demanding something raw and holy, something the soul resists but desperately needs. When someone wounds you, it feels like the wound will never close, like the pain is a stone in your chest, heavy and unyielding. You turn it over in your mind, replaying the hurt, as if the replay itself could rewrite the story. But the stone only grows heavier, and the bitterness seeps in like water through cracked walls. Colossians 3:13 calls us to a higher way, a way that feels impossible. Bear with each other and forgive, just as the Lord forgave you. These words are not soft. They are a hammer, shattering the illusion that holding on to pain makes us strong. Forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. Forgiveness is stepping out of the shadow of what was done to you and into the light of who you are becoming. It's not erasing the hurt or pretending it didn't cut deep. No, forgiveness acknowledges the scar, but refuses to let the wound define you. It's releasing the power the hurt has over you, opening your heart to a grace far greater than your pain. When you forgive, you're not giving up. You're rising above. The act itself feels like a surrender, but it's a victory, a quiet, defiant act of liberation. Forgiving doesn't mean they were right. It doesn't mean the scales of justice tip unevenly. Forgiveness isn't blind. It sees the truth of what happened, but chooses to leave vengeance in God's hands. To forgive is to step out of the endless loop of replay and release yourself from the story of a victim. It is trusting that God will mend what you cannot. Unforgiveness is a weight, a chain, a tether to the hurt. It keeps you in the past, reliving the same pain, circling the same anguish. But forgiveness, it unties the knot. It lets you breathe again, lets you walk forward without the burden pulling you down. Think of Jesus on the cross, nails in his hands, blood painting the wood beneath him. He looked at those who mocked him, who cheered for his suffering, and he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In that moment, he showed us the way to overcome, not by crushing his enemies, but by breaking the cycle of pain. When you forgive, you reclaim your name. You are no longer defined by what someone did to you. Your identity as a beloved child of God cannot be stripped away, not by betrayal, not by cruelty, not by the deepest wound. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength forged in the fire of grace. To forgive is to thrive. It is to step out of the shadow of anger and into the brilliance of God's joy. It's a way of saying, "This pain will not own me. My life is more than this hurt." Forgiveness opens the door to peace, to freedom, to a life unchained from bitterness. It's a holy act, one that lets you see the face of God more clearly, lets you walk with him more closely. And so you forgive, not because it's easy, but because it's the only way forward. Not because they deserve it, but because God's grace is greater than your pain. You forgive because in forgiveness you find yourself, and in finding yourself, you find God.